Well, well, well. It has been quite the week, especially for Mr. Sam Altman. He has his face all over the internet right now from his Sora 2 memes. This is one of those weeks where you can kind of feel the future a little bit. And this future you might not like, maybe you do like it, I don't know. This future is a little bit more cyberpunk-ish that I'm feeling this week. But it's yeah, you can feel the future this week and it's kind of crazy. But let's just break it down. Obviously, Sora 2 came out, and it's kind of like a slot machine. If you, it depends. Maybe some people like the slot machine, some people don't like the slot machine, but it's a slot machine. And it will get really good. Eventually, it'll be better than probably scrolling on any social media platform. Eventually, it'll know exactly what you want to see, when you want to see it, how you want to see it, and each and every single video that you're scrolling through will probably become like immersive experiences one day where you are scrolling on the app and then you can click on one of the things and then you can almost like control an agent within that space, or maybe you can like scroll around on your screen and view the angles of that scene that was created by another user. That seems like it's probably not very far away, especially if you look at the spatial awareness of these video models and the image models such as Nano Banana. These things are spiraling at us. By next year, I can definitely... It seems like that would be definitely physically possible. Will we have the computational resources? Maybe not. To deploy it to all of the users on the app with that much, with those capabilities? Maybe not. I don't know. But I know it'll be physically possible. And then it's only a matter of time until we have the compute to support all of the users on the platform. Yeah, the future is spiraling at us at an unprecedented rate. Here is a before video of Sora 1 and an after video of Sora 2. As you can tell, the quality improvement is insane. And I've had comments on my previous videos where people are talking about the video models and they're like, "Oh, video models suck. AI is not going to be that good. It's very slow growing, all of these things." And it's been 12 months between these two videos and they're not even relatively close. It's like not even relatively close. And yes, Sora 2 still has a lot of problems. It's still not like, it's definitely not the AGI of video yet. It's a good step change though. Speaking that this is the second video model from OpenAI, yeah, it's not bad. And if you say it's absolutely horrible, I mean, I could see your argument in some cases, but it's been 12 months, man. It's only been 12 months since we got access to Sora 1. So yeah, expect it to continue to accelerate. Now, the main thing I wanted to talk about in this video is kind of like the path that we're on as a civilization. It seems like we're heading to Neuromancer before we get to the culture. And for those of you who aren't familiar with science fiction, Neuromancer is like the pinnacle of a cyberpunk future, where you have like the mega corporations who have more power than governments, and then you have these slot machines that are like feeding all of this AI generated content to you, and then eventually this content becomes literal worlds that you can plug into per se and experience them. And that seems like where we're heading very fast. And some people will say, "Whoa, Neil, that's a big leap from where we are." Yeah, but if you look at Sora 1 to Sora 2, that was a pretty big leap. Sora 2 to Sora 3 is going to be a very big leap. Sora 4, you will probably be able to actually put on a VR headset and walk around in any of the images or little video short form piece of content reels that a user creates, and you'll just be able to almost feel like you're there in VR. And of course, we'll have to make some technological breakthroughs to have the kind of like immersive plugging into that thing with like a brain computer interface. That's probably a little bit further off still, but you can see the trajectory, and these things are already starting to be developed. Especially if you look at Sam Altman's company, Merge Labs. He's on the board of the company, Merge Labs. They're building non-invasive brain-computer interface and eventually an invasive brain-computer interface and neuroplasticity gene therapies. So these things are being worked on. It's not like it's science fiction anymore. I mean, sure, technically it is because it's not in our hands as consumers, but the technology exists in labs already. Not at the full immersive extent that you would see in like the Matrix, but I mean, eventually that might happen. So, yeah, this might sound absolutely insane and absolutely science fiction to some people, but these things are genuinely being worked on. And some of the smartest physicists on Earth are building these things today. So it's not really something you can really just like scoff at and look at it like it's something that's below you or never going to happen. These things are coming now. These things are real. It's not that these things are just made up. So yeah, I recommend to look into Neuromancer and kind of like read or learn about the civilization that they live in, because it seems like that's kind of the trajectory that we're on. And then on the other side of that, I would like to see us get to something that's more like the Culture series. Maybe we'll get there, maybe we won't. Which is part of the reason I made this YouTube channel, is because if you look at all of history and pivotal technologies that are changing the paradigm that humans have lived in before, friction happens, and that friction can last for decades. If you look at just the advent of the printing press in the 1440s, it took 30 years for them to fully transition into a different state of being as a species. It took humanity a very long time because the powers that be had concentration of power, and the printing press allowed information to become decentralized. That's kind of what we're going through right now, where intelligence and labor as capital is being decentralized. And just the intelligence in general, is being decentralized. And the ability to solve extremely hard problems is already starting to be decentralized. So as these powers, really, that exist in the world today come undone, it's not going to be pretty. And it's going to take time. The companies like Google, OpenAI, the mega corporations that are the hyperscalers is what they call them, they're going to be holding on to this as long as they can. And that's only a natural reaction as the species that we are. It's not that you would do anything different if you were in their position. You would succumb to the same evolutionary biases that they are. And if you think you wouldn't, you're lying. You're literally fooling yourself. That being said, it's a pretty interesting time to be alive. I'm pretty excited for everything that's going to happen regardless, just because, I mean, sure, change can be painful, but change is often good. The pain just builds character. But on the other side, things will just be a whole lot better. We'll have a whole lot more maturity. We will learn from so much of what we're about to go through. And it's going to be an interesting ride. We'll put it that way. But yeah, it does seem like pretty much all of the economy will kind of be put into the hands of a select few companies who are basically building civilization from scratch. And I've been trying to say this on this channel for a long time, but now people don't really believe things until they see it blatantly in front of their face and they feel it happening to them. That's the unfortunate thing about the world that we live in right now, is people don't believe things until it's like forcing things upon them. And they're like, oh, this is what that crazy guy on YouTube was talking about. And these things are, you can start to see the very beginnings of them with people that are just leaving college and they're trying to find internships. They're trying to find jobs, and they're having the hardest time ever because of the pressures that AI is putting on the workforce. There's a squeeze happening right now where the roles that these people would be going into are being filled with technology faster than they can actually get the job. Because the technology doesn't need to be trained. It doesn't need anything besides just integration, which happens pretty seamlessly. You just have your experienced employees, the managers, the people who have been there for decades or many years using the tools. And now they take up 4 people within the company. There's many cases, actually, where there's super experienced people, and even unexperienced people for that matter, working 5 different jobs, 5 different jobs right now in the economy just using AI. So that's kind of the interesting thing is there is a lot of talk about AI is going to create a lot of new jobs, and AI is not going to actually take the jobs. It's just going to create jobs. And this whole like AI takes jobs things is like a big myth. I mean, it seems like the data is pointing in a different direction because these companies don't actually have enough demand for the labor to fulfill it. The supply of the labor is there. We have a bunch of students coming out of school that are talented. We have a bunch of technology that can do the labor. But the demand of the labor really isn't that high. They're filling it pretty easily and they're stopped hiring. So yeah, that's kind of the situation that we're in. And if you think about free markets and you play out the theory of free markets to the optimal, to basically the most efficient outcome, you really don't want to have any employees. If you really think about capitalism and free markets and you play it out to the logical conclusion and you play out the theory to the most efficient outcome, employees are a waste of time. Actually, employees are stupid. You don't want to have any employees at all. You just want to be an operator, a CEO, a manager that has a bunch of automation, because the employees are actually a bottleneck in your company. And I think that's where we're actually heading. And the idea that AI is going to create new jobs, well, yeah, I think it'll create new work for people to do, but it won't be in the traditional sense of the jobs that we have today. It'll be in the sense of you are now an entrepreneur, painting your own path, creating something, building something in the world that hasn't existed before. And that sounds very hard and almost impossible to a lot of people out there. They're like, oh, I can't do that. I'm a 40-year-old man, a 50-year-old man, maybe a 60-year-old man, or maybe you're an 18-year-old or a 17-year-old, or maybe you're my age. And those things just sound way too big. It sounds way too hard. And I do sympathize, I understand that argument and I get it, but I think a lot of what that comes down to is simply a mindset. And it's very unfortunate, in my opinion, especially for the older generations, because if you look at the biology of the human brain, it starts to harden and calcify around the age 25 to 35. And once you get to that point, it's very hard to change the paradigm that you're operating within, which means it's going to be very hard for people over about that 35-year-old age mark to change the way that their brain is operating, to realize that the world is actually abundant and they can solve any problem with the power of AI. It takes a lot of pain or suffering for that brain state to become malleable enough to actually shape into something different. But to somebody who is younger like me, it's very easy for me to realize, oh, I can change the way I operate. I can look at the world from a completely different lens and then allow my brain to dynamically fill in the vacuum that I need in order to operate within that space. And a lot of people don't have that capability. Whenever you hit a certain age, especially, your biology doesn't adapt that well, which is why I'm extremely excited for Merge Labs that Sam Altman is working on to help get some of that neuroplasticity back so that people can do these things. Because that's really what's going to be required to make this transition, is the ability for people to realize that they are now entrepreneurs. They are not employees anymore. It's either you rely on UBI, you rely on the government handouts, and therefore you lose your agency, or you become an entrepreneur, and it's a bimodal outcome. And that's going to be how it is for definitely the next years, potentially the next decades, until we do finally get to a culture series like future where nobody really has power. It's just the AIs are autonomously running the world for us around us. And we don't even know if that's ever going to happen. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. That's an extremely far out prediction from where we are today. I personally believe maybe we'll get there, but we don't actually know for sure. It hasn't happened yet, and we can't measure it, so therefore we have no evidence, and it's not scientific, it's only religious. There we go. So that being said, start to think about these things. look into Neuromancer if you haven't. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, Neuromancer is exactly where we're heading. But if you look at the book Neuromancer, it was written in the 1980s, and it's made many, many, many predictions, and it's painted many, many different scenarios as to how a world with super fast changing technology, very fast accelerating technology, puts the social pressures on society and the traditional paradigms that we have lived within and the monkey desires that we have through evolution, and how it causes these different emergent phenomena to unfold. And the predictions and the scenarios that the author paints are almost one-to-one with where we are. Like the lead up to where we are today is exactly how the book has gone so far. It's almost one-to-one. Will it get to the super sci-fi, like mega corporation holding of the power type of things? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But all I know is so far it's playing out pretty accurately. And it seems like it's going to continue, especially if you look at Meta in the release of Vibes and OpenAI in the release of Sora 2, these slot machines. Why did they release these slot machines? So that they can have mass power. That's literally it. They want to own the attention of humanity, centralize the power as much as possible. And I understand the business play. I'm an entrepreneur. I get it. It makes a lot of sense. It's quite smart, but it's going to be a different future. Let's put it that way. Whenever we start to hand over the entire economy to 4 different companies, that's when things get dangerous. Whenever the entire economy is handed over to a few different companies, and now you have 4 people making decisions for all of humanity, that's when things get dangerous. It's a lot of centralized power. And we'll see if it gets that far. So far, it's looking like it will. That being said, I'm going to wrap up the video here. Hopefully this was insightful or viable. And hopefully it gets you to think about things and actually take some action. I've mentioned many times this is a time to become entrepreneurial. It's a time to get moving. It's a time to build things. And if you don't know what to build, if you don't know how to do these things, that's why I'm building my community. And no, I'm not just trying to shill my community. I know that's thing that people like to do, but I genuinely want this to be a place where anybody can come that doesn't know how to operate within this environment and learn the skills they need to survive, learn the skills they need to thrive even. And that's why I make the community as cheap as it is. It's literally only $7 per month, and we have about 400 people in there who are committed to learning and adapting and changing with this technology so that they can optimize their position in the future. And we can all share the best future possible by actually learning with the technology, building with the technology, and adapting as these changes happen together. I think the one thing that will actually survive this is small, tight-knitted communities. If you look at the internet, if you look at the traditional devices, these things are going to die. The entire internet is going to die and be reborn. If you look at the AI operating systems that are being put out by Anthropic, they released, I think it's called Imagine with Claude. It's the first view of an AI operating system where the software around your operating space is generating in real time based off the decisions that you make. What does that mean? Well, the entire company that you're building right now is probably going to be obsoleted if you're building strictly on the internet. As these models get better and better, as they go from just-in-time software to just-in-time services, the entire space of the internet economy gets captured by these mega companies. It's not that you're going to be competing against them. No, the AI is going to surpass you in every way. And if you think otherwise, it's going to be a rough time. So that being said, I kind of want to wrap up here. I think, again, the one thing that will survive is these tight-knitted communities and people who are realizing that these things are happening and they're actually building in the physical world. This is why I'm starting to build in the physical world. This is why I'm building like small devices and stuff like that right now, is so that I can try to learn hardware and investing in solar energy, investing in electric vehicles for transportation, investing in the ability to 3D print things and build hardware, investing in AI for physical world stuff, not just virtual reality stuff. The world is changing fast, and if you don't adapt, you're going to be left behind. I just want to leave it there. That being said, I will see you in the next video.